Well, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Thomas Ryan, and my company is Thomas T. Ryan and Company. We publish a daily trading newsletter, which appears in your inbox 200 trading days a year. Feel free to stop by for a free trial, ttryanco.com if you like. There's no obligation, no credit cards taken. Love to have you give us a try. Today we're going to take a look at a trade which we are going to have in our newsletter this week, and it's going to come out tomorrow. That's the 25th of April, and it's Mastercard short. And I thought we'd walk through why we are doing this trade, or why we may do this trade. It may not trigger, but why we may do this trade. It's in the letter, and I'll explain it to you now. It's very unusual. It's different. It's not what we do. We generally are trend following swing traders. We do not counter trend trade, and we definitely do not speculate on earnings. But MasterCard's earnings are coming up this week on Thursday, and this MasterCard appeared on some of my screeners this week, and it looks like about as nearly a perfect short setup, I think, as you're going to get. So let's walk through it here and I'll explain why we're doing it. So the first thing is we're going to look at the higher time frame. This is monthly on the left. This is my TC 2000 screen. And by the way, you should be looking at this full screen on your computers as well. Don't try and look at it inside the YouTube window. The bars are too small if you do that. So this is, again, looking at a full screen. This is the monthly chart. This is the weekly chart, daily chart, hourly, and 10-minute chart. We'll start with the higher time frame first, which is the more powerful. MasterCard looks like it is setting up for a potential kind of double top situation here. The MasterCard, like a lot of stocks, took a big drop at the beginning of the year, right here, and it has recovered from that, again, like a lot of stocks have. But the difference here is that we see continuing weakness in a lot of the technical indicators. So on the monthly MACD, we continue to see this divergence. The stock has now recovered, and it was in divergence long before. You could say that the divergence was resolved right here, but I think potentially not, because what's happened is you see that the stock has recovered up to here, but the MACD has continued to go down. There's been no recovery in the MACD whatsoever. So not only was it divergent here, it remains divergent here. So do we have another one? Yes, we do. We have the RSI is confirming this, a continuing downtrend from back here. Same thing with stochastics. Stochastics kind of flatline, but you see right here it's still down. So even though this has recovered, the stochastic has not. Both, I look at two stochastics. One is a shorter one is a longer one, and you can see they're both negative here. So let's go over and look at the weekly chart on MasterCard as well. And we see basically in greater detail what's been going on here, and I'd say that this is even a greater confirmation. You have what's shaping up to be potentially a head and shoulders top right here, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and a clear divergence on the weekly MACD as well. Now this is still pointing up here, but it's going to turn down if and when this goes down. It's overbought, again, on all stochastics. It's overbought on the RSI, and and these have all turned. This stochastic has turned. This one is about to turn. The other thing that's going on here is you continue to see weak volume through all of this. We saw big spikes in the red as it was coming down here. You saw big spikes in the red as it was coming down over here. So when it declines, you seem to get big volume. Yes, there are some green bars here when it recovers, but you're seeing a lot of continued flatness in the volume right here through this whole upward trend, which is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks straight up. You see kind of lackluster volume in there. So we have lackluster volume in a 9-week long recovery back up into this congestion right here. We see a little bit of a kind of a, I don't know if you call it a doji or a hammer or whatever is kind of happening right here because we had a little bit of a pullback. Is the timing perfect for this? Ordinarily we'd probably say no. This looks like the trend is going to continue on up. I don't see a lot of breaking going on here, but I do see a loss of momentum. You see the MACD histogram has been on a downtrend here, which is a reflection of the difference between the MACD and the signal line. So, the momentum is fading out of this thing. You see a little bit of narrowing of a bar there. That's a narrowing there. It's not perfect, but it's pretty solid. That the MACD divergence on this time frame, MACD divergence on this time frame, overbought basically on all time frames. If this thing hits the right moment, it's going to drop. So Mastercard's earnings coming up on Thursday are going to have to be really good. I think all the money is in this thing that's going to be in this thing. And boy, if they disappoint, which a lot of earnings have been disappointing this season, there have been a lot of misses. So if we get another miss on Mastercard, I think you're going to see a problem here. Now the question is, what do we do with this? So we're putting this in as a sell stop under last week's low. So below 96.35, we would trigger a sell stop. The next thing that could happen is, will we get in? I put a 20-cent stop limit on that. That might be a little too narrow, but that's wider than we usually do. We usually do 10 cents. But if it disappoints badly, chances are, is this thing going to trigger before earnings? It could, because it did have a bit of a sell-off. We'd have to get in at, what do we say, 96.30, 96.30. Yeah, it could. Could it go right about in there? Yeah, it could. If it goes below, the Friday close, yes, the Friday close. What was the Friday close? Friday close was 96.39. So it could trigger before earnings if we get a kind of a down week going on next week. I think the bigger fear is that the stock is going to disappoint on earnings and it's going to gap down and we won't be able to get in it. We'll take that risk, and maybe we'll get in it before earnings come out, in which case we'll keep a close eye on it and close stops on it. That's what we're up to this week. I hope that's helpful, why we took this trade. Feel free to join us if you like, if this is the kind of thing that interests you. ttryanco.com, 30-day free trial. We take no credit cards for the free trials. Love to have you join us.